TNA Wrestling crossed the line again with their first episode three. Bound for Glory, their biggest show of the year, is in the books, and we return back to our Impact Wrestling shows. Before the show started, obviously there was Chris Bay's statement regarding his injury. Chris Bay suffered a serious neck injury at the tapings after Bound for Glory. Not necessarily this taping in particular. I think it was the following taping. Chris Bay is out for, well, we don't even know how long Chris Bay is out for. Very serious time for him and his family. I think he underwent successful surgery from what we know, but we don't know if he's coming back, when he'll be back. Um, and really, we don't know the severity of the injury or what the injury was, other than it was very serious. All we can do is wish Chris Bay well and his family all the best and happiness, healthiness, shall we say, more importantly than anything else. Now, there is a GoFundMe page set up for Chris Bay. It's had about 70, $80,000. So a big thank you to everybody who has put in, regardless of whether it was a dollar or $1,000. It will be very much appreciated to Chris Bay. The link is below this video, so make sure if you can give a dollar or a pound note or a pound coin as it is over here in the UK now, please do. I know Chris and his family will be very, very much appreciated for that. And we wish Chris and Vikingo, who was also injured, we know that it's Vikingo's injury is not that serious, which is great news for Vikingo. He'll be back, I think, over here in a couple of weeks' time for Progress Wrestling. So great to hear about Vikingo is in good health, and we really do wish Chris Bay all the very best, and hopefully that he can get better as soon as possible, and he heals his neck up, and hopefully we'll see him back in a TNA ring in the future. That is for sure. But after the bad stuff, let's get into the good stuff. The Halloween version of TNA Impact. We got some Halloween messages from the French Canadian Frankenstein PCO before we got straight into Frankie Kazarian, Joe Hendry, and Nick Nemeth. Now, obviously, you know, after everything that happened at Bound for Glory, Nick Nemeth retaining. But as Frankie Kazarian was going to cash in, JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, comes out. He was clotheslining everybody, including Joe Hendry. He also punched Ryan Nemeth in the face, Bound for Glory. But anyway, out come Kazarian. Kazarian has got a load of boos at this point as well from the fans inside the Impact Zone. They did not like him. Joe Hendry comes out. Initially, Kazarian come out under Joe Hendry's theme, and just as he was about to talk, out come the real Joe Hendry, and Hendry runs down Kazarian on the microphone, and as you know, it continues to do that. Out comes the world's most wanted man, Nick Nemeth, and he actually explained to Joe Hendry that nothing all he saw at Bound for Glory, noting, sorry, that all he saw at Bound for Glory was his brother Ryan Nemeth getting hit. He did say that he believes in Joe Hendry and he deserves another shot at the TNA Heavyweight Championship. And he wanted to give it to him tonight, but apparently Santino Marella, the director of Authority, said no. And as he says no, we hear the very annoying voice of Alicia Edwards. I say annoying. If she ever comes on this show, I'm probably dead. Anyway, but she said, "Do you want to know something?" And she kept saying it over and over and over again. She goes on forever with the system on her side, and Tasha Stills, with for that matter, actually, by the side, until Nemeth suggests that he and Hendry beat up the system of Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers tonight. But as he was saying that, Kazarian butts in and suggests they make it a six-person and he will be their partner. He does the Joe Hendry wave to the crowd, but is met with a super kick from Nemeth and the standing ovation from Joe Hendry. And that concluded a fun opening segment on Impact, which was quite tremendous, to be quite honest with you. But when the show returned from the commercial break, we were still hearing Alicia Edwards, and she was still talking away. But she did bring up the new TNA Knockouts champion, Masha Slamovich, which actually brung out Masha Slamovich at this point. And Alicia Edwards, and Tasha Steelz gets in to a big brawl at this point. She and Masha Slamovich was fending both of them off very well indeed. And as Slamovich started to get the better of the exchange, Alicia Edwards, who had a neck brace on, attacked her from behind. He had a neck brace on because of the Full Metal Mayhem match, of course, where she got involved and abruptly got put through a table, I believe, if memory serves me right. Anyway, Slamovich gets the better of them, and then Alicia Edwards tries to attack her from behind. And then as she turns to face Alicia Edwards, Tasha Steelz, and then attacks Masha Slamovich from behind. And as the two take over on Slamovich, the all too familiar theme of the juggernaut Jordan Grace, who returned to NXT this past week as well, and he's going to be in an all-star 10-woman tag team match next week on NXT. Check that out. But on this occasion, she ran down to the ring and helped Masha Slamovich clear the ring in this. And obviously her friend, Masha Slamovich, did obviously beat her at Bound for Glory. But in this occasion, she wanted to help. There's a lot of respect between the two. Obviously, a big hug after the match at Bound for Glory as well. And as they stand tall in the ring, out comes the director of authority, Santana Marella, and he announces Grace and Slamovich versus Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz for next week. And for tonight, he announces Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth versus the System's Eddie Edwards and JDC, Johnny Dango Curtis, in the main event of Impact today, which should be great. Speaking of great, brings us to the first match, the tag team match of First Class. AJ Francis, Casey Navarro, and they took on Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel of the Rascals. And just before that, a good partnership. We must congratulate the team at Blacksmith Apparel. Our good friend Aaron over at Blacksmith and TNA are now seemingly partnering up. What a great partnership that is for both parties. And big congratulations. I know that Aaron's worked extremely hard over at Blacksmith Apparel to get where he is today. So big respect and big up the team at Blacksmith, and congratulations on the partnership that you're potentially going to air with TNA. And at this point, as we said, First Class against the Rascals. The Rascals itself was fantastic. You know, I love seeing the Rascals compete. Big shout out to Tom Hannifan, because he did mention the Motor City Machine Guns winning WWE Tag Team Gold this past week on SmackDown as well. But this match was great because you had three guys in there. The Rascals, Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, and Casey Navarro that were hopping, you know, they were doing the high-flying spots that you would imagine. And then you had the wild card in this, which was AJ Francis, who, as you know, I've been a big fan of this year on TNA. I think he's been fantastic. And obviously the thing with that is he's a lot bigger guy, and he was doing the strong side of the match as well. And it was a very good, entertaining back and forth tag match. Three of the guys, as I said, Casey and the Rascals, are just brilliant at what they do. And AJ just adds that differentiation to this tag match because he's the big, powerful guy on this. But as it looked like the Rascals were getting the better of it, AJ Francis uses that strength and hits the down payment chokeslam on Miguel off the ropes in the corner for the victory, which is, you know, a big one for those. You get First Class there, potentially tag team championship opportunity could be coming for First Class. You know, the Hardys winning tag team gold last week at Bound for Glory. First Class are now climbing that ladder, and they could be in with a shout at an opportunity for the tag team championships. With that win over the Rascals have been tag team champions in the past, so that's a big win for First Class. And Casey Navarro continues to impress. TNA done a master stroke in signing Casey Navarro. He is so highly touted and very, very highly rated in the industry. For them to get him on board is a fantastic, well, it is a masterstroke. It's a fantastic acquisition for TNA Wrestling. And, you know, there's no doubt there would interest elsewhere on that guy. He is going to be a big time player in TNA, as is AJ Francis. Like him or not, he can do the business, and he's getting better and better and better week in, week out. The Rascals, they'll always be there. They're one of the best tag teams in TNA, and TNA's tag team division, by the way, don't sleep on that. They have a huge tag team division, and they, again, the people like First Class, you've got in there Sinner and Saint as well to add to the Hardys, the System, the Bullet Club on Chris Bay. We know about that situation, but you've got all of those guys in there. It is a massive division for TNA. Do not sleep on that division, whatever you do. Now, when we're back from the break, we get an interesting six-person tag here. It was Eric Young, it was Jonathan Gresham, and it was Macklin. And they were going against a team of Josh Alexander. Now, it was meant to be Singer and Saint, but of course, they had issues getting to Bound for Glory, so they wasn't a part of this match. So he got himself a good hand, or shall we say, the good hands, Josh Schuyler and Jason Hotch. And this was a brilliant six-person, right? Because in this, it just worked between these six guys. You've got so many different types of people in it. You've got the technical brilliance of Jonathan Gresham. You've got the pound for pound of Alexander and Macklin. You've got the wily veteranness of Eric Young. And then you've got that actual tag team with Schuyler and Hotch. And it was such a great mix of people to have in this match. Obviously, coming off different victories and losses at Bound for Glory, we obviously Macklin had his hands tied behind his back for the majority of his match at Bound for Glory. But this was tremendous, and the six guys complemented themselves so well in this match. I thought this was brilliant. The interesting thing, though, is a lot of this match, things weren't going Alexander's way in this, and he was Eric Young was, chop blocking him and doing bits and pieces like that. So what does Alexander do when things don't start going his way? He does the offs. He walks off and leaving Hotch and Schuyler to defend for themselves. And they're immediately gobbled up by Macklin, who is really fired up after Bound for Glory as well. He finished it off with the KIA for the win. What is going on there? Alexander just wasn't happening for Alexander in this particular match for sure. But an incredible end with Alexander's walking out on his teammates there. Sinner and Saint are needed back. Pretty sharpish for Josh Alexander, but still a fun six-person. Difficult to see, obviously the good hands, another great tag team that TNA have got themselves there. And the four other people in there, they can easily be going for championships. And when we roll through, obviously Genesis is coming up next year. Got a live Impact as well. Everybody to watch coming up in January. We'll have a few special shows before then. A big Victory Road maybe coming up before then as well. But lots of moving and shaking going on at the moment as it kind of TNA hits that reset button after Bound for Glory. I'm really looking forward to seeing what goes on with the likes of Eric Young, Macklin, Alexander Gresham, who is so good. The rumors of contract expiry as well for Jonathan Gresham coming up, obviously, and Jordan Grace as well, which has fueled the fire for WWE, but we don't know. We don't know what's going on that match. But as we got back from the break, we saw the highlights of Bailey and Vikingo, which was a hell of a contest. And I think the reason that we got that was because this was the point that they were going to show Vikingo versus Trent Seven in the match that Vikingo got injured. So we basically got the highlights of what was an incredible X Division match between Vikingo and Speedball. And like we said at the start of the show, great news that Vikingo is not seriously injured in it. It looked quite serious. He flipped to the outside, and when you do that and you land on your feet, your legs buckle and all that sort of stuff. So really good to see that he's okay. And obviously they highlighted the X Division match in there instead of going to the Vikingo Trent Seven match, which I think was a good idea from TNA. I don't expect to see Chris Bay's match next week either, to be quite honest with you. So very good idea from TNA not to air the match with Vikingo. But then we go to a knockouts match. And we got Ash by Elegance, who's with Heather by Elegance, and the Iceman, the concierge, against Britain's own Danny Luna and her partner Jodie Fret. And again, this match, you look at Heather Reckless, you look at Ash Byler, Danny Luna, the bigger than Ash, and Ash was doing the bits that she needed to do in this match. And I was quite actually interested by this. What we did see, sorry, before this match started, was we saw a bit about the call your shot gauntlet. AJ Francis hitting a down payment on Trent Seven to eliminate him. We did see Trent Seven backstage. He looked a bit dejected when Mike Bailey pops up and gives him the pep talk, and they're interrupted by the system. Moose talks about wiping TNA Bound for Glory from the records because the system don't lose. Which people Mike Bailey just says, well, we saw you lose. We saw you lose, Moose. And that ended up making a match for next week. X Division Championship Speedball Bailey versus Moose next week on Impact Wrestling. Should be a great match there. But let's get back to what we were talking about. The Knockouts division. Danny Luna, Jodie Fret from Spitfire, Danny Luna against Ash by Elegance. And this is, again, obviously Heather Reckless is now all ashed up, so to speak, or reckless up. So to speak, Spitfire, the tag champions, Knockouts tag champions. So all in all, this particular match, I think, is going in the direction of perhaps we're going to be seeing Ash and Heather by Reckless, perhaps challenging Luna and Fret for the Knockouts tag team championships. I'm all here for that. You know, you've seen that the growth of Heather Ash by Elegance over this year. I've waxed lyrical about it enough. The TV time, the character, everything works for Ash on this, and it's absolutely working here. Now you've had a ball of energy like Heather by Reckless with her. It is making for an amazing team potentially going forward. And this actually, in the match, Heather does help Ash get the pinfall because she blasts Danny Luna with, of all things, the broomstick. As Ash hits the swanton off the top rope for the victory. But that is interesting because, for this, like I said before, the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, Ash by Elegance, has pinned one half of the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. If Heather gets the job done, or even if she doesn't now, surely that pushes the Recklesses, I'm going to call them, or the Reckless, up in the title contention. They must do, surely. It's got to be done, right? They've got to be in title contention now for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. We will see about that. At the end of that, we got another update with Chris Bay, and again, about the recovery costs of the GoFundMe. It is below. The GoFundMe is below, guys. Like I said, if you can give anything, it will be much appreciated. When Impact returned from the break with another Knockouts action, Li Ying Lee was against Maggie Moore. No more than an enhancement match for, as I'm going to call her Zaya Lee, because that's how I know, and it's a lot easier than Li Ying Lee. It didn't take too much on this match for Lee to get the victory in this. She hits the Thunderstruck for the easy win. Didn't take too long, but it was more about after the match. The returning Savannah Evans in months. We haven't seen Savannah Evans in months in TNA. She comes back and attacks Li Yi. Jeez. As she was celebrating. And this is yet another big knockout that's come back to TNA wrestling. She then was announcing it was my time, not yours, and then choke slamming her, leaving her laying in the ring, leaving Lee laying in the ring. And this is incredible part of TNA. And yet another knockout returns to the company. The division just keeps on growing. And that is going to set up quite a tasty little feud there between the two, in my opinion. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I don't know about you, but maybe we'll see it next week or not. We will wait and see. As we get to the main event, which is coming up right next, we get Mike Santana promo. He talks about being taught that you have your word and your balls and you don't break them from anyone. And he gloats about going through the system one by one. But he says now it's time to bring home the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Nick Nemeth has yet another enemy, and that is Mike Santana. And I am, again, all for that, guys. Geez, that is going to be amazing if that does happen for sure. For Kazarian, he's back as the main event begins. He obviously comes out with his Call Your Shot trophy. He joins as a commentator, and you know that's going to be commentary gold. The system then come out. Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth come out. Really, really good tag match. But throughout this, we keep getting glimpses of Kazarian and the trophy. And obviously, we know he gets a Call Your Shot trophy. He can, cash it in at any time. It could happen. Nick Nemeth, was taking a lot of the brunt of the beating early doors. He does make the tag to Joe Hendry. Um, and JDC was in there. JDC's looking really good as well. And you keep looking at these guys and you see him in WWE and he didn't quite work or whatever happened. And you see him in TNA and they just look totally different. He's doing such good work in his character on this. Nick Nemeth gets the tag to Joe Hendry after the flipping knee. No, he doesn't. Sorry, I apologize. JDC tries to come off the top rope with a flipping leg drop, but there's nobody there. Took a bit of a painful landing as the fans started, we believe, they wanted Joe Hendry back in at this point. And Edwards managed to grip Nemeth's foot. But as he did that, Nemeth explodes forward and gets the tag. And there's a hot tag to Joe Hendry now. And, Hendry comes in and he's flying around everywhere. He hits some stomps and all of this stuff. And, at JDC and Edwards trying to double team in to try and cut his momentum, but he pulls off a sort of like Road Warrior Hulk by ducking and coming through the ropes with a leaping double clothesline. And it was so good to see. He hit him with he tagged Nemeth back in, so he hits the famous for a close two. It was really going well for Hendry and Nemeth until Joe Hendry accidentally clotheslines Nick Nemeth. And Eddie Edwards follows up with the Boston knee party for the win. And the first time Nemeth has been pinned in the past 6 months was from a Boston knee party from Eddie Edwards after the clothesline inadvertently with Joe Hendry. As Joe Hendry tries to explain themselves, he's not having it. Keeps coming up to try and explain to Nemeth. Nemeth's not having it. And Nemeth says, everybody gets one. And then the two continue a heated exchange and they try to catch up with him again. And he yells one more time. He yells, got it. And he heads through the entranceway. Hendry looks upset as the end. And it's a bit confusing at the end with what's going on with Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. Are they managing to make things better or make peace? I don't know. However, a mad ending to a crazy Hollywood edition or Halloween edition of TNA Impact. But coming up next week on TNA, Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich versus Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz. Can those two coexist? Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich better than Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry? We'll wait to find out. Wendy Cho and Rosemary in a no disqualification match next week as well on Impact. That should be interesting. And Speedball Mike Bailey will put the X Division Championship on the line against the Systems Moose. Do not forget, TNA Plus app for all things TNA. Get yourself downloaded. If you can't do that, AXS TV in America. Ayozat TV soon in the UK, still streaming. That will have a new Freeview channel soon for us to watch it on. We'll let you know what that is when it's out there. But this was the TNA Impact review on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with me, your host and frontman, Mr. Adam Cousins. And until next time, everybody, cross the line and stay safe.